Thank you so much for coming, friends and family. My name is Pastor Ben Pun. I'm a pastor at a church in Diamond Bar, which Linda and her family attend now. And I only met Ron a few months ago, just through a friend of a friend. I got to know them and was able to pray for them and care for them through the last couple of months. And one thing I found was that I thought I was there to kind of be there for them and to bless them. But I think maybe I was more blessed by Ron and his family than maybe I was blessed him. And just looking out here, just looking out at everyone who came, I think that's the story of Ron's life. He blessed a lot of people. And so we just want to thank you on behalf of the family for coming and supporting us at this time. And so today, Ron, he said that he didn't want a sad memorial service. He wanted it to be a celebration. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to remember Ron and we're going to celebrate his life. So we're going to have a series of different things. So just thank you for coming. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a hula dance. So the dancers can come on up. And the reason we wanted to do a hula dance is because Ron and Linda, they wanted to take a trip to Hawaii. That was the next thing they wanted to do. And so they're going to do a little worship dance to a song, and there'll also be a slideshow of Ron's early life. So.
Yeah.
have a little video of a clip of Ron's mom, Georgiana, and she's going to be singing a song, "Peace I Give Unto You," on her ukulele. And while Ron was in the hospital, Georgiana would come to the hospital and would just play this song just in the background. And so you'll see a little clip of that in this video, so we just wanted to share that.
My peace I give unto you. It's a peace that the world cannot give. It's a peace that the world cannot understand. Peace to know, peace to live. My peace I give unto you. My love I give unto you. It's a love that the world cannot give. It's a love that the world cannot understand. Love to know, love to live. My love I give unto you. My joy I give unto you. It's a joy that the world cannot give. It's a joy that the world cannot understand. Joy to know, joy to live. My joy I give unto you.
Wow, I'm glad this is a happy celebration. I wouldn't be able to speak at all, so it's a sad celebration. Yeah, I was there when she was playing that. My name is John Alvarado, and I have the honor today to speak to you a little bit about my life with Ron. But first, can you hear me okay? Great. Thank you, Ben. Did you guys know today is Star Wars Day? May 4th. Ron was a big Star Wars fan, so May the 4th be with you all. You guys look fabulous. You know what? I'm gonna take a picture for Facebook. Yeah. If anyone doesn't want their picture taken, please recite the mathematical constant pi. What does it? You know Ron can do that? Yeah. Yeah. Just a smile on both sides. Come on, big Ron, smile at everybody. Side over here. Come on, smile, hold it. Yeah, that's it. Awesome. Okay, I'll get that up on Facebook later. You know, I like to be on Facebook because it helps me stay connected with my friends and family. But there are some people in your life that you have a special connection with that you don't need Facebook for. I'm fortunate to have a few people like that in my life that are my brothers from other mothers, as the saying goes. And a couple of them will be here today. I know Andy Brown is here in the audience. And Greg Marquez should be here soon if he hasn't already arrived. I didn't have any brothers by blood. I'm blessed with 5 younger sisters. And 2 of them are here today, Jeannie and Regina. I love you. They twirled rifles in the Magnolia High School color guard. They're twins, so they were like bookends. And they got to share that experience with Ron. Ron didn't twirl rifles. Ron was a percussionist in the band, and as was I for the first year. But Ron stuck with it, and he became the section leader. And that's how he met Linda. Linda was also a percussionist. And that was the first and last time in his life that Ron was able to boss Linda around. Yeah. Anyway, oh, and I say anyway now, because Ron cured me of saying anyways, which is grammatically incorrect, apparently, and he was a big stickler for proper grammar. So anyway, Ron was also definitely is one of my brothers from another mother. And I say is in the present tense because that is a bond that doesn't require physical presence. It's forged in the early years of youth by shared experience. And it's one of those things where when you reunite again after a long absence, it's just there. You look into the other person's eyes and you see yourself in them. I first met Ron in 12th grade, and 7th grade. I was 12 years old, in 7th grade, Dale Junior High School. And Andy Brown, Ron, Greg Marquez, Greg Tavares, and myself, we all had the same core classes from 7th grade through 12th grade. And one day early on in 7th grade, I was drawing a mysterious maze on a piece of graph paper, and they asked me what it was, and I introduced them to Dungeons and Dragons, and we became fast friends. We would have sleepovers and stay up all night playing Dungeons and Dragons and eating pizza and snacking on M&Ms and Doritos, and we would spend hours after school painting miniature figures that we would use in our D&D games. And we also shared a love of video games. It was the Atari VCS back then, games like Kaboom and Adventure, and of course later there was the Atari 800, which was a computer, so we started learning how to program games as well. And also at the same time, we would go out to all the arcades and look for the latest arcade machines, because that was a lot of fun too. They had the advanced graphics. And one of Ron's favorite machines was Robotron. I'll say a little bit more about that later, but suffice it to say that those years, 7th grade through 12th grade, were the golden years for us when we forged that lifelong friendship. We even, in our senior year, we had a name for ourselves. We had these polo shirts printed up that had the Nighthawk group and the big bat on the back. And we wore them all the same day at school, and people were asking, are you guys in a gang? A nerd gang, maybe. But after high school, we went to different colleges, but we were drawn again together after we graduated college by our love of video games and programming, and we entered the video game industry. Although not right away for Ron, he was pretty content to work at Disneyland after college, making good use of his computer engineering degree there. Until about 6 years later, I think, is Greg Tavares and I started a company called Big Grub, and we finally convinced Ron to join us full-time into the video game industry. And at Big Grub, to get back to the Robotron thing, we had several classic arcade machines in our office, and Robotron was one of them. And I used to jokingly refer to it as Robot Ron, because when Ron played that game, he became one with the machine. And he would play for like 30 minutes at a time, breaking a heavy sweat to beat the high score. And whoever got the high score got to enter a long message instead of just like 3 initials. So we usually had Ron's message up there taunting us on the high score machine. But fast forward to just late last year, I recall Linda posting on Facebook that they ran into a Robotron machine at some arcade, and Ron became glued to the machine, to beat high score, and he beat it, of course. But he told me later that he forgot about putting in the long message, and he just put in his 3 initials. And I wonder now, what would Ron have written if he hadn't, forgotten to put the message in there? I think something very different from what he would have written back in the Big Grub days. Back then, the Ron that I knew was very, skeptical of religious faith, to say the least, and more of like a very formal, logical person. We would shake hands instead of hugging, kind of emotionally guarded, I think. But when Linda came back into his life many years later, everything changed. He certainly became a happier person, and his big smile got even bigger, if you can believe that. And I got a lot of hugs from him, so that was really wonderful. He learned through Linda that you could have intellectual doubt and still exercise faith. And he accepted Jesus Christ into his life. And through Jesus, he began to examine his self, looking inside and escaping from the emotional restraints that bound him, and beginning to forgive and beginning to let go of anger and resentment that he had, letting go of fear. He confided to me recently that he was bullied as a child, as a young child. And and that left lasting scars. And it wasn't until recently, when he accepted Christ into his life, that he was able to forgive the bullies and let go of that anger and resentment that he'd been holding on to for all those years. And he said it felt like a huge weight was lifted off of his shoulders. It broke my heart to hear that he experienced that. I didn't know him back then. I couldn't be there for him. But I was able to be there for him at the other end of his years when he was sick. And I remember one time I was at his house. This is when he was sick, but he was still at home. And we were sitting on the couch watching a hockey game. And I just had this strong urge to reach out and take his hand, hold his hand in mine. But that's weird, right? Guys don't hold other guys' hands unless one of them is hanging off of a cliff or in the hospital. So I didn't take his hand. I waited until he was in the hospital. People say that I've been a good friend to Ron. But I wish I had been braver in my love for him. I think that the message Ron would have put on the Robotron machine would have been something about his faith, something about forgiveness, about letting go of fear, about love. I think that the message he would want me to leave you with today is to exercise your faith. Forgive the people that approach you. Let go of your fears and just love.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Mon. I'm a friend of Ron's. And thank you, John. That was wonderful. And I just wanted to share with you my unique friendship with Ron. I'm not really going to take up that much time. But to me, Ron was a skunk. And to explain what I mean, when you're an artist or a cartoonist, as I am, working for the Disney company, you're going to be drawing a lot. You're going to be drawing many things, and you're going to be drawing often. And if you don't turn that thing off that makes you an artist, you will find yourself seeing the world in terms of, yeah, I can draw that, and what does that girl remind me of as a cartoon character? Is she Ariel? Is she Belle? But unfortunately, the flip side to that is when you're friends of a cartoonist, there's no standard warning to you that your friend, the cartoonist, will draw caricatures of you in some way. And I'm sure that when I started working at the French Market Restaurant, New Orleans Square, Disneyland, those people had no idea what they were in for. And that's where I first met Ron, French Market Restaurant. And by then he had already had the nickname of Casual Ron because of his status as a casual, seasonal Disneyland cast member. But still, having a nickname is not the same as seeing one's self in a comic strip taped to the wall of a kitchen where you're cast as a black and white striped skunk. Now, sometime after the first appearance of Skunk Ron, I recall real person Ron approaching me with a huge smile and saying to me, "A skunk, huh?" And the only defense I could come up with were to list 3 good skunks. That would be Pepe Le Pew from the Looney Tunes cartoon. 2 is Flower from Bambi. And 3 was the Lockheed Skunk Works, the group responsible for the SR-71 spy plane. And I'd like to think in those 2 minutes that Ron forgave me for drawing him as a skunk. If, at all, he was upset about it. I would later transfer a handful of characters from that script to another that was more general interest. And a skunk is one of those main characters. And over the years, that now amount to over half my life, which is just incredible to me because I still feel that we are still kids. Ron has been hugely supportive of my art, including those comic strips. It may very well be a mark of our friendship that every now and then I'll sneak in a striped skunk in something, whether it's a sketch that I do for my own good or a Christmas card. And I know that as I continue drawing comics, that in that way, Ron is going to be an ongoing presence in my life. Thank you for listening to me and allowing me to share that with you.
Thank you, John and Brian, for sharing. I'm Pam Lou. I'm Ron's sister. And as his sister, I have a lifetime of memories of Ron. I'm going to share a few of the qualities that I admire and the ones that I'm going to miss. The first quality is his servant heart, which could be seen by his passion for being a band parent. He and I both experienced high school band together, as John mentioned, and we were blessed enough to marry into families whose children grew up to be band kids. Ron literally lived for the days that he could help with uniforms and equipment and whatever the band needed, and he always served with a smile. The second quality is loyalty. Ron was very loyal. Loyal to his family, to his friends, to his sports teams, and to his workplaces. He developed long-term relationships that can be evidenced by the number of people here today who knew Ron for decades. John already alluded to this. I was going to say I could say it because I'm his sister, but Ron was a likable nerd/geek. He admitted it. He was into computers long before I even knew what a computer could do. As John mentioned, they played Dungeons and Dragons, and he built rockets with friends growing up. And he thoroughly enjoyed science fiction. John also mentioned that Ron was a huge Star Wars fan. So much so that 20 years later, when they re-released the original film in theaters, Ron left work early, bought tickets, spent hours in the line so that he could watch it on opening night. Now, the only reason I know this is because I also left work early that day, bought tickets, waited in line with my friends, and who did I find in line but Ron and his friends? We were at this same theater for the same showing on the same night. Ron and I went to see the show Les Miserables together for the first time when it came to LA, and just fell in love with the music and the characters and the storyline. We saw it again together when it came back to LA. I know Ron went to see the latest production. I've seen it since then as well. We just loved it. As I reflect on that now, I realize that Les Mis is a story about redemption and salvation and unconditional love. Those things which I always considered to be very biblical resonated with Ron somehow at a time in his life when he was quite hostile toward God. The best phone call I ever received from Ron was when he told me that he accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior. That he could finally accept the true story about God's plan for redemption and salvation and God's unconditional love, even though he still had unanswered questions. Ron and I had the opportunity to make a dream come true a while ago when he was able to arrange a tour at Blizzard Entertainment for a client of mine. We worked in very different fields. He was a software engineer for a major gaming company, and I'm an occupational therapist working in a brain injury rehab program. This young client survived brain cancer, interestingly enough, and been trying for a year to arrange a tour at Blizzard through one of those organizations that grants wishes, and had been unsuccessful. He kept telling me that everyone who works at Blizzard is a rock star. And I know we have some Blizzard representation here today. In my mind, I had arranged to visit my brother at work. In my client's mind, we were going to visit the land of rock stars. Ron arranged a dream tour at Blizzard, which is a type of Disneyland. It's a fantasy world all its own. That was the day I was able to see Ron not just as my brother, but for all of his rock star qualities. His ability to inspire. Sorry, I know this is not supposed to be sad. For his generosity, his compassion, his service with a smile, and having a heart that reflected all the blessings that only come from God. To Linda, Jeremy, Elizabeth, Naomi, and Daniel, I want to thank you for being part of the best years of Ron's life. He was never more happy or fulfilled than in the time he spent with you. Thank you for your examples of love and faith and devotion to Ron.